I was trying to write my questions.
The time will come. Question time will come.
Not questions, but like what I want to learn.
Okay.
In this Mvuyani Fontaine. I do script writing, directing, acting. Yeah. So I want to know and learn here in script writing how to copyright my work, my scripts, which apps should I use, and then the difference when you're writing a short film, sitcoms, and telenovelas. Thank you.
Now, sharp. Let me take you more happy. I'm a performer, a choreographer. So now I'm more interested in terms of theater. I want to learn more about theater, the dynamic setting of it.
Malweni, igama nguSinalo Mchawulana. I'm from Honey Park, Vuka. I'm a performing artist, a script writer, and a director. More script writing, low differentiate in terms of script theater, film, and also to learn more directing.
Yale dumedisa ke pitso bohlale. Nna ke filmmaker, ke producer, ke director, ke script writer, ebile I'm an author ke ngola le dibuka. Lebaka le ntse monana ke tabeng fela ya floor plan ke tabeng ya alright tse di tla ke buka tsana go ntse ape.
Thank you. Are we okay? Good. All right, cool. It's really nice to meet everyone. So I don't know if you are aware about the running order for today. Yeah. So there's me, and then we have Krije, who is coming in after me. She is a director and an actress, right? Krije Govender. She's done a lot of amazing work in television and theater. And then after that session, then I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you, but I won't tell you the name. Then we have a really amazing and legendary actor who's gonna be speaking to you about acting and the business of acting and everything that it takes to be an actor. And this person will be speaking from an actor's point of view. Okay, so I prepared a presentation, but I don't think I should go through this presentation the way that I was planning, because my presentation focuses mainly on writing and telling stories, right? But as a producer, when you are a producer, you are basically like a generalist, because you've done everything and you've got a good understanding of everything that there is in the industry. So basically being a producer means that you are the boss. You employ, whether it's actors or writers or whatever it is, right? So I think the best way to do this, for the purpose of those who are interested in writing. So I'm going to touch a bit on writing and what it takes to put together a good story, right? And then I'm going to leave that very short, and then I think the rest of the session should be a Q&A where you are asking questions and I will do my best to answer those questions, right? If I don't know the answer, because I don't know everything, if I don't know the answer, I will refer you to Krije or to the actor that's coming. I will write down the questions, I will send them on our WhatsApp, and I will ask them to answer these questions for you. Is that okay? All right. So I'm not going to go through everything. But basically, the main thing about writing stories, the first important thing I feel is what kind of stories are you trying to write? What stories are you trying to tell? Because when you tell a story that is true to you, if uzobhala ngento oyaziyo or that is close to you, then it's easier to write that story. Then it means that you need to do a bit of research. So for example, if you are into music, if you want to write a show about an artist who leaves home and goes to Joburg in search for success and fame and fortune, because you love music, it will be easier for you to relate to that story. So in other words, you have no business writing a story about cars when that's not your passion. So I think it's so I'm with my friend here, who's also a writer and a director, but he's more in love with reality shows. So he's directed a couple of reality shows, and would I be correct in saying that it's easier to write something that you are passionate about? Yeah. So because then it all comes naturally to you. And even when you're doing your research, you're doing your research knowing what this is the message that you're trying to portray. But even in writing then, so there are ideas. There's someone who asked about how do you copyright your script. Who was it? You? Yeah. So it's a very interesting question, because everyone thinks that their ideas are great, right? We all think that our ideas are great, and sometimes they're not great. And sometimes ideas are just ideas, Sometimes ideas are just ideas, and they are not stories. So, for example, an idea is to say a king died and a queen died. That's an idea, right? You've got a king and a queen, and they both die. That's an idea. But to say a king died and then a queen died from heartbreak, now there is a story, right? Because you are explaining why the queen died. So then your story now is in establishing who the king and the queen are, where do they live, and then what happened to the king for the king to die, and then for the queen to eventually die out of heartbreak, how did it get to that? So I always hear people talking about the most common idea that I hear about is a woman who has a taxi business, right? I hear that idea a lot. People say, "I've got an idea that I want to pitch, and it's an idea about." No, so they all think it's a story. I've got a story. This is a story about a woman who's running a taxi empire. That's not a story. That's not a story at all. A story, for example, would be after the death of her husband, this woman finds herself stuck with the taxi business in a male-dominated world, and she tries to run that business with many oppositions. So then you get a sense of how to begin the story and what happens in the middle of the story and what the end of the story is. So what I'm going to try and show you here, okay, I think I've spoken a bit about this. So, when we say cause and effect means this is what happens, and then this is what happens as a result. And that is storytelling. Alright? Something happens, and as a result, something else happens. Okay, I use the example of a queen. So for example, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. In human behavior, if you are stressed, it will cause physical and mental health. Okay, for example, in society, if certain political decisions are made by the government, it then affects us as a country in a specific way. In storytelling, if a character makes a decision, if you decide to come and slap me, what will happen in return? Do I walk away? Do I slap you back? Do we fight? And then when we fight, what does everyone else do? Do they stop the fight? So that's how you've got to think when you're telling a story. This is happening, but this is the result of what will cause Lendo Yenzile to happen. But then most importantly, this is how we are ending the story. Okay? So if you slap me and we fight back, and then she decides to intervene because she's your girlfriend, no, okay, thank you. She can be my girlfriend. Okay, that's good to know.
Not this one.
Not this one. Okay. It's good to know these things. Rules of the count. Okay, so that is how you need to look at storytelling, right? And in basic terms, really, when we write a story, when we put together a story, we have something called, and I will share these terms, and these are terms that are boring, but because we have writers and we have actors, these are things that you must know, right? So in story, we have something called a protagonist, right? It's a difficult and boring word, but basically, protagonist is steering, right? Is steering, yeah? And then you have an antagonist, yeah? Antagonist is the person who is opposing the steering, right? So it's always these two people, but in the middle of it is the goal or the want, and then the conflict. Okay, so for example, a typical story will say A wants to get to C, but B is in the way. Ne? A wants to get to C, but B is in the way. So B can be anything. B can be any type of conflict. If A is the protagonist, the steering, okay, and C could be the goal, right? C could be the goal. So if you want to get to this, and I am in the way, yeah, it's boring storytelling if you get it very easily, right? So there must always be something that gets in the way of what you want as the steering. If it's education that you want, so A wants to be educated, but there's a transport issue in the way. Or A wants to get married, but the ex-husband is in the way. Alright, does that make sense?
Yes.
For everything that your protagonist wants, there must be something that stands in the way. Welcome to the newcomers. We've done introductions already. I don't think is it fine? Okay, well, welcome. Anyway. Okay, so like I said, I will go through this very quickly and then I will open the floor for questions. So in the world of story, when you're telling a story, one of the important things that you must figure out in your head is, when are you telling the story? Is it happening now? Is it something that happened 20 years ago? Or is it something that is happening in the future? All right, so you've got to figure this out in your head. Duration. The duration, if you're telling a film or a short film or a telenovela, as you asked, is one episode or is a film taking place over 3 days? Is it taking place over 5 days? Is it taking place over 1 day? That's entirely up to you as the writer, okay? Location, very important. Where are you telling the story? For example, Skim Sam. Skim Sam was very specific with this is a story that's been told in Teflon, right? And as it grew, then we went to the university, and then some kids moved to Joburg. Location is very important because each place has its own character, it has its own set of problems and own sets of challenges, right? So when you are very specific about where you tell your stories, that will also help you in generating more ideas. Okay, are we clear? Are we on the same page? Okay, then we get to conflict, right? There's a very long explanation. Conflict, who can tell us what conflict is? Do you want to give it a try? Conflict. Do you know what conflict is?
Conflict is more like an argument.
Okay, all right, that's one explanation. Who wants to give it a try? Okay, all right. Who has another? Do you want to try?
I don't know if I should.
No, you should. Of course you should.
Okay. It's a dispute between whatever that's going on. Trying one person is opposing and the other person is opposing. So basically, it's two people clashing over something that
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, now I can definitely take that. So there's different kinds of conflict, and conflict doesn't necessarily have to happen between two people. All right. Let me find this slide here. So what it says here is that conflict motivates characters, right? If, for example, you have written a story, and in this story, your character wants to get married. Your character falls in love, and the person that your character falls in love with is a Muslim man, and you are Christian. That is a good area for conflict, right? Because you are getting into a space that you generally don't agree with for whatever reason, right? So there are many different kinds of conflict. So there's human versus self. This is conflict when a character is struggling with themselves, right? With their inner thoughts, emotions, dilemmas. And then there's human versus human. That's what you spoke about. Human versus human is conflict between individuals, whether it involves physical or emotional arguments. There's human versus nature. This is when humans are struggling versus natural forces. It might be the weather, it might be the storm, whatever it is, right? There's human versus environment. This is when, I would say, in a story, you move to a new town and you find that you are struggling to fit into the town because it's different from everything that you are used to, okay? This human versus technology, I think that one is quite easy. And then there's human versus supernatural. These stories involve, thank you very much. These stories happen when you are in conflict with something that is beyond your control. And then there's human versus God. There's actually been a lot of stories that have been told about human beings versus God. Okay. So, and then there's something called, so we're still talking about creating stories, right? So when you're doing a story, we spoke about a protagonist, okay? So in a story, we have an antagonist and we have a protagonist. We say the protagonist is the steering. That's the good person. So there are things that you must do, because the first thing that you want is for the person who is watching your movie or your theater piece to root for the protagonist. If I, as a viewer, if I am not rooting for his steering, then you've done something wrong. Okay? So, and I will share all of this with you, just in case you want it. So this basically says, what is it that a protagonist must have? And the main thing is that this is a person that must be liked. This is a person who must have clear goals. This is what I want with my life. If you look at Skim Sam, for example, when we first meet Kwaito is looking for Usia Kamela. He's dead, who disappeared. He spends the entire show looking for Usia Kamela. Alright? And he's got his mother, Umantuli, who is a single mother, who is trying her best to make sure that Kwaito gets educated. But Kwaito, even in everything that he is achieving, and Kwaito is an author, right, when we start with him, in everything that he does, Kwaito, he still wants to find his father, which is something relatable. And that's another thing about a protagonist, that he must have a relatable story that people can identify with, okay? And then we have the antagonist. The main job of the antagonist is to give steering a very difficult time. So, for example, again in Skim Sam, we had Ulelo, was it Lelo, that Kwaito fell in love with. And so I'm still upset. So the thing about the antagonist, or the person that is fighting with steering, they don't have to be a bad person all the way. It's just someone who has a lot of faults. Ulelo was beautiful. She loved Kwaito, and Kwaito loved Lelo, but in the end, Lelo kidnapped Kwaito on Faga's suitcase. You've got a question?
Yes. I was asking you, and totally in the situation with other...
Totally. That's a great question. It's a great question. An antagonist doesn't always have to be a person. An antagonist can be your situation. An antagonist can be your drinking problem, for example. I mean, imagine being a father who has a child that is in need of medical attention. You are a recovering alcoholic, right? And you need a job to get money to pay for your child's medical fees. And the only job you find is in a tavern. The only job you find is in a tavern, right? So then that place, in a way, becomes the antagonist, right? Because you are constantly fighting. There's bottles all around you. You are constantly fighting to, you're fighting the urge to drink. Or you are trying to lose weight. Ne? And then you get a job in Albany. Ne? Amagonya, donuts, and all of those things. Right? So a very interesting way of telling stories is putting your character in a place that will bring them difficult times. Okay. Yes.
Could you just take us through the process of auditioning these two?
The process of
auditioning these two, the antagonist and
protagonist. The process of auditioning.
Yeah. Before you pick somebody.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand your question. So once the script is written,
Yeah, let's say for instance, you came up with the concept. Let's say for instance, you came up with the concept. This is the script. You see, this is the script now. And then you have written it. And now you have to audition the characters.
Yeah. All right.
Take us to the process.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to park that question. Ne? Park that question. I will take you through it. So I'm just going to wrap this up. because this is just for the people who want to tell stories. So now this is casting and producing that you are getting into, right? Which is cool, which is good to know, because as a writer, you have to keep these things in mind when you are scripting them, because your script is still going to go to the casting director. It's going to be sent out to the casting agents, right? Whatever information about the characters, and then the casting agents will get the actors and send them to auditions. Okay. So let me see what else I can share with you before we go into questions. So there's something called a log line. Yeah? And a log line is very important, whether you are a writer, actor, director, editor, producer, casting director. If you are working in the performance space, film, TV, theater, log lines are very important. And what is a log line? Who knows what a log line is? Yeah?
I can guess.
Please do.
Well, I think, I guess log line is the body of the story, whereby the story has to make sense. Yeah.
Okay. Not quite, but the makes sense bit, that's what I will take. Yeah. Does someone want to give it a try?
But I'm guessing.
Yeah, of course. We're here to guess.
I think it's the scene number, so that maybe everything is going to make sense. Maybe
not quite. Again, makes sense. Yeah, not quite.
Description of.
Not quite. Yeah, I had a word there. That's yeah. You're on it. Do you wanna?
Yeah, it's like the description of the story.
Yes.
That you're about to watch.
Basically.
Yeah.
So a log line should tell you what the story is, right? A log line is usually 3 lines that will tell you what the story is about. For example, for the longest time, Iskim Sam was a show about 3 young men with different challenges, 3 young boys with different challenges becoming men, right? So that was the log line, Iskim Sam. So I'm going to show you a couple of log lines, and this is really important to know and to be able to do as you carry on in your career. So what does it take to have a log line? You have to have your protagonist, right? We explained who the protagonist is steering, right? So protagonist, you introduce the main character, often highlighting what they are about, okay? It has to have a goal. What is the protagonist's goal? Antagonist or conflict, we spoke about that. Who is the bad person here, or what conflict do they have that they are going through that is threatening the goal? Stakes, what happens if they don't get to the goal, all right? And then setting a situation, it's not always important, but what space are they in? So for example, if we are looking at this movie, yeah? Okay, maybe this one is a bit complicated. Let's look at Shark Tale. At Finding Nemo. After his son is captured in the Great Barrier Reef, that's a place, and taken to Sydney, a timid clownfish sets out on a journey to bring him home, facing various marine challenges along the way. So this explains exactly what it is. The protagonist is the timid clownfish. The goal is to rescue his son. Conflict, perils of the ocean, whatever problems that are taking place in the ocean. Stakes, the son's safety. Setting, which is the place, the Great Barrier Reef. So the setting almost tells you how dangerous the place is, right? And then this is not always important, the tone or the genre. Let me show you a more familiar one. I don't know if you're familiar with Titanic. Yes. Yes. Write down. Because you're going to
the thing is, you're moving too fast, so I wanted to make sure that I would get the other information that I would not write.
Yes, I will share this. Okay, maybe not this one. Lion King, okay? Who's familiar with Lion King? Alright, that's great. A young lion prince flees his kingdom after the murder of his father, only to learn the true meaning of responsibility and bravery when he returns to reclaim his throne from his evil uncle, treacherous uncle. So the protagonist, the person that we are rooting for, the person whose story we are telling, is the young lion prince, and that's Simba, right? What is Simba's goal? To reclaim the throne because his father was killed, okay? What is the conflict? The uncle's betrayal, Mufasa. What's at stake if Simba does not reclaim the throne? The future of the kingdom might be lost, okay? And then the tone, it's a family show. Does this make sense? I will share this. Unfortunately, I can't zoom because it's the settings alarm. Do you have a question?
I would like to know what is the difference between a synopsis and
Okay, we want to get to that. Just write it down. Yeah? But maybe, since we're in the log line actually, a synopsis is longer. A synopsis is a page or 2 pages. Synopsis, you are explaining everything that is happening in your show. You are explaining how we open, what happens as a result of that happening, and how does it end. So a synopsis is basically when you submit to a channel, Zansi, Magic, or any other channel, SABC TV, the things that they will ask for, they will ask you for the log line, and they will ask you for the synopsis. Those are the main important things. Because the log line, it explains in 3 lines what this is about. Okay, and then the synopsis explains in detail. So the log line and the synopsis must match. So in essence, a log line is a summary of the synopsis.
Yeah, my question is that there's no
So your golden ratio is a very interesting element because it's not just about the visual element only. It's about your strongest point in your artwork, in your writing, in your pictures, and where you should display them. Now, in a drawing, you know the Fibonacci sequence. Where the smallest area is where you must drop the bomb. Meaning, you add all of these ideas, all of these complex ideas, but there must be that one thing that drops the bomb on everything. That will be the thing that's remembered overall. Everything. It's a good article, it's a good picture, it's a good art piece, but there must be that one thing that you know you purposely created to get people's attention overall. That's the golden ratio, which is important. Then we talk about colors, which I did add inside here. Colors are very important because they give life towards everything that we consume. You can tell what I look like because of color, you know. Even the color of the room assists us in understanding, you know, the environment, the kind of conversation that we're having. But in any case, the color theory also helps us understand when to apply color. And in color is not just the fact that the things that we can see, it's the things that we can paint in each other's minds. When you tell a beautiful story, you need to involve some form of color to invite people to understand what kind of emotions is in there. Like sunset. When you describe the colors in sunset, you get an emotion of what it feels like to be there rather than the actual picture. And that's what color helps us with. I know we all like food, unless there's someone who's fasting for 40 days. Let us know. But when you think about the color red, when it comes to food, what are you thinking about? Hey, meat.
Meat, KFC.
yeah. But you see, they've made an impression on you. Because that meat, when you eat it, you don't eat it with peace. You eat it with anger. But more than that, red represents passion. Orange represents, I mean, you can see the colors there, but I think the point I'm trying to make by giving the colors on the screen and even inside the document is that you have to be intentional about the atmosphere you're creating for your work. So if you're making it blue, why is it blue? What does blue mean? There's a psychological reason why blue is blue and how it makes us feel. So you're creating an atmosphere by using color in your writing, in your art, in everything that you do. So even the way you speak, it's a male-dominated room, so when you speak to women, you can't speak to them in black and white. They don't understand it. You have to color the conversation, and it's the same principle. Okay, so I put some examples there of the words I found this online. You can judge me later, but this was the easiest thing to find, so I can group everything in one place for all of us to see. Facebook was reported to use blue because they wanted to appear friendly. Like it's called Meta now. But Facebook's branding, because it's a social platform, it is blue because they want to accommodate a calm environment, a interactive environment. Blue represents water in some sense, and it's calm, it's collected, it's together. You know, it's soothing, it's cool, all of those kind of things. So when you create anything, color in mind. Think about the environment you'd like to create. If you're creating a brand identity or a painting of the ocean, you're not going to color it red for no reason, unless there's an intent to erode passions. And that's why graphic design or any kind of art, it comes from a psychological place, because it deals with how people are thinking, feeling, and experiencing the world around. So that's why I think when you create stuff or write stuff or do anything with regards to color, you think about the broader picture of just making it blue or red or whatever the case may be. So this is now focusing more on the art side with regards to color. So there are two color forms that you must remember when you come to the visual arts and also the graphic design, which is your RGB and also your CMYK. RGB is related to all the digital platforms, which I will get to a bit later. And the reason why RGB can only accommodate these colors is because when you look into a screen, there's certain light bulbs that cannot go a certain color. It cannot produce a certain color. It's only for digital. and this is more on your visual side. If you decide to become a digital artist, which I think you should get into, you'll understand that drawing on a computer is a lot more complex than drawing on canvas. Because the color coding is not the same. It looks so live-like more than the actual portrait. You once tried? Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. And how did it go? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's because the colors on digital platforms are not the same as actual visual color. You can put the combination, but they won't come out the same. Because the elements of digital is not the same. Which takes us to CMYK, which is only specifically for print. If you do decide to become a graphic designer for print, this is the kind of color you work with. You usually work with vector-based programs, because when you work with vector-based programs, you don't get printing that is like this. You see the edges, it's so blurry. You don't get that. Yeah. So if you want like your very brilliant, very tight, very direct, or in fact fine cut printing, you'll work with CMYK in your settings most of the time. Yeah. So, like I was saying, yeah, with the example, you have two elements that you deal with when it comes to printing. If you're working with a program like Photoshop, you will usually get a rasterized image. And what that is that it does not have like the fine cuts or the quality for print. But if you're using something like your Corel Draw or your Illustrator, you'll get something nice and sharp.
Even print a big size.
And it won't pixelate. Yes. You've done this class before. But yeah, that's something you should consider should you do anything. Print is to know which softwares you're going to use for what, why, and where. Then we have typography, which is a very good thing. I like typography because it links to more words than it does just pictures or shapes or whatever the case may be, because many elements are included in typography. And it helps when you're communicating with words. Typography allows you to make certain text bigger, make certain letters smaller, so that you can get a particular thing across. So, just like every other element, you have your contrast, you have your space, you have your hierarchy, and also your size, which is also important because it allows you to communicate with words more than pictures and images. Now, your design softwares that I have recommended, especially for every base design, if you want to get into graphic design, these are the first three you need to learn. Why? Because they're industry-based. Everyone is using it, corporate, everything. If you can get Photoshop right, Illustrator then becomes the domino effect. Then you can get onto Adobe InDesign if you write documents and write books, you want to publish and design them. I added Canva because I know we all are on our phones. Computers are very expensive, especially if you're using a high-end computer. I have a gaming PC at home, so that allows me to work faster. This is if I'm traveling. It's the fastest PC I have. I have another one inside there. If I'm on the road and I'm sitting in the passenger seat just to read through things and all that kind of stuff. But I mentioned Canva because Canva is doing a lot of great things now. They have incorporated a lot of programming into it to also get to the final details. Of course, you won't get the same level as Photoshop and Illustrator, but to get started is a good place if you want to edit basic images and all those kind of stuff. Yeah, Canva. Canva is pretty good. Yeah, you can get it on the phone. You can also go on the PC as well. Yeah. And then ChatGPT is also an important one, mostly because when you when you do any kind of design or whatever the case may be, the best way to get across is to find ideas quickly. And the reason why I'm giving you the strategy or adding ChatGPT is that the quicker you can find your ideas, the quicker you can actually get started. Because that's the problem with having to design anything or write any document, is how do I get this idea going? ChatGPT, you ask it one question, it gives you all this.
Maybe any question? What do you expect from the session? Anyone? There's somebody there. Do you have an additional mic maybe, or maybe this one?
Hello everyone. My name is Larato Tulo. I'm from Tanzania in the Free State. Ms. Candice and Ozrifile, I have two questions for you that I would like you to cover in your presentation or the masterclass. Firstly, I believe as a startup or as an upcoming designer, we struggle to price our products. What I've seen is, because I'm from Koto, my prices are quite different when I'm in Joburg. I think also you can also include location into there, so that we understand when you are in this location, you can price according to the location also. And the second one is what are the key elements to a successful clothing brand? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I think when you price your garment, I always, because I give business classes at the Fashion Hub, I always say you must try to put your markup at 2.5%, so it's 2.5 times more than what your expenses are. So expenses will probably be your fabric, your thread, maybe you'll write it down, your fabric, your thread, your buttons, your embroidery, if needs be, your anything that you buy, you write it down. You also write if you traveling, maybe with a taxi or petrol, whatever, you'll put that in. You'll help me if you like I'm not on the right track. You also put in your labor. You have to pay yourself all the time, so you have to put in your labor. So you have to calculate your hours. So if you pay yourself a salary in a month, calculate the hours that you put into the garment and then put that in. And then obviously when you've done all your expenses, it needs to make yourself a profit as well. So 2.5 is a good way, but it depends. If you are in a district where they don't maybe want to pay so much, you maybe lower it a little bit. But I always say, stand firm to what you believe your worth is. Never undermine yourself. If somebody wants to pay, if somebody doesn't want to pay you for your worth, I always feel that it's better to say no to certain work than to work for free, basically. Because you are in a business of making money at the end of the day. And then I think if you will just...
Can I make a follow-up on that?
Sorry?
A follow-up.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yes, I was saying also, I develop my own print.
Yeah.
So, do I also, if I develop my own print, do I charge that 2.5 or I increase the percentage?
You have to. Everything that you do, you have to make a profit on everything that you do.
So I think another factor, just adding on what Candy's saying, is brand positioning. Yes, we understand cost price and that we must also have profit and whatever. But I think the other thing that we shouldn't forget is how you've positioned your brand. So that would mean you must study the market that you are literally catering for. When you know your clients and you research on the kind of clients that you are servicing, then it will give you an idea. Because I'm in manufacturing and I manufacture for other brands as well, outside of my own. So you would find that I am manufacturing for your brand. I'm just a manufacturer. The designs are yours, whatever. I'm just mass producing, right, for your brand. And something that would cost you, maybe let's say this shirt cost price would be, for me to manufacture, would be 250, right? Your fabric and your design and everything. You would find that there's a brand that would charge maybe 1,200 for the shirt, and you would also find another brand, maybe just different material, but same style, because a shirt is a shirt. You'll find another brand that's going to say this is 3.5. And they would sell out. So it's just based on where you have positioned your brand. Where you are located as well plays a part. The visibility that you have created alongside your brand, which is why you find more brands like Amakosa and whatever, and it's like 15,000 for like a crop top. It's worth it because that's where they have positioned that brand. There's a lot of things that we also need to understand. It's obviously the labor that goes into it. The printing of your own material would obviously mean that you must have a higher markup, because then what it means is the item becomes exclusive. So it's not something that you can get Vuka in my fabric and copy that design. He's got his own specific print, right? Meaning to get that print done, you also put down an extra investment. Yeah, so if you've put down an extra investment, that would mean it becomes like an exclusive brand, which then would mean your prices need to be a bit higher. And people that appreciate and understand the value that has went into a certain design wouldn't mind paying like an extra 1,000 rand. So I think brand positioning is the ultimate one. Like, where do you see your brand? I can sell a dress. And also the other thing to let me not forget is also the quality. Do you know what I mean? So if you know that your quality is like very good, then you can literally get away with pricing it however. 100% profit, 200% profit, sometimes 500% profit. Honestly, because we also understand that the low costs that are involved in actually the production, but if the quality is good and people feel like they're paying for something that is worth the price in terms of quality and the fabrics that you've chosen and the fit and the materials that are used and so forth. So I think it's a lot of those other things to consider as well. But I would say on top of the list would just be how you position your brand. Like, just know who your clients are, you know what they're prepared to pay. you know, because I might complain about your price, but somebody's like, yeah, sure. You know, it's fine, 3,000 for a dress, sharp, send me your account details, where somebody else would be like, oh, my budget was 500. You know, nothing wrong, but then you must understand the value in your own products. Yeah. And then, Ghana, what was your second question?
The key elements to a successful
brand. Sure. I like looking at fashion more on the business side, but I understand it's such like a broad industry because there's so many careers within one industry. So I would say the key elements will obviously depend on what it is that you're trying, where you're trying to go. So it can never be like a one-stop copy and paste answer. I think it would depend on where do you see your brand, what do you want to do with your brand, so that you would like be able to understand the right platforms to follow. Do you understand? You can either be more inclined on how do I monetize my products, but then there's also some people that are like, I'm just a creative and I'm gonna get an agency that is gonna push my work, you know, and which is also another thing that I don't think a lot of us, especially in the Free State, understand, that there's fashion agents, just like artists have agents, fashion designers can have agents, where this person is the one literally just working on the business side of things, getting the deals, making sure that you're supplying stores, making sure that you are partnering with CMT companies, making sure that you are partnering with the right PR people to create visibility around your brand. So I don't think that can be like a copy and paste kind of answer. I think it will depend more on what it is that you're trying to achieve with your brand. But the first thing that you must always understand is, what is it in this industry? Where do I fit in? Do you know what I mean? For me, my last year when I was studying, I've always known that I'm more into the entrepreneurial and the business side of the industry. I've always known, yes, you're creative, fine, sharp, but I've always known that I liked the work behind the scenes. The only reason why I focused on the work in front, doing fashion weeks and having my own brand and all of that, I think it was because I understood that for me to be able to come to talk to you guys or any other designer that I'm going to claim I can help establish their brands and whatever, I needed to have a footprint and a history of this is what I have done, whether for myself or other brands, and this is where I think we can take it. You know, so I think just have like a clear understanding of where you want to see the brand and what you're trying to achieve, and whatever that is, then you would know. But obviously, the main basic things would be work hard, do your research, perfect your skills. You know, we must always make sure that we perfect our skills. Make sure that your quality is on point. There's other careers in the fashion industry. I mean, there's other people that would be focused on pattern designing. There's other people that are just seamstresses, you know. There's people that would say, I'm just a fashion illustrator. I'm just a, you know what I mean? So I think if there's a clear indication of what works for you as an individual, then we can sort of like try direct in that path.
I think you said a mouthful, and it's very, very important what Vuka has just said, because your brand must actually, it's actually a lot of hard work in the beginning. To a point where you somehow feel like you're going to give up. I mean, we be from there. But it's just important for you to push harder on it, work on it daily, and just to make sure that your brand is always out there. I always like to say to my students that your social media must be on point. It must be on point. Sometimes we post nonsense. That's also part of building your brand. We post certain things that doesn't really matter. But what if we take that decision to post every day, or every second day, you post your design, or while you're busy sewing or drafting a pattern, just post something like that. Create awareness, create visibility that this is what you can do. Yeah, any other, did we cover your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other? Any more questions?
Can I be the one asking questions?
Yes.
Okay, so since, I don't know why you guys are not asking, but let me understand. So from the people that are, there's about 2 students, did I see right? Okay, so why are you studying fashion? And what do you guys want to achieve? And I'm asking this just so that maybe we can sort of like have a conversation on the how-to, because I don't think there's ever a thing where we have it figured out. And just being from, there's also another thing about being from the Free State, right? You need to work 10 times harder, right? Because making it in Free State is difficult. And then just exposing yourself to a bigger market when you're like, okay, now I'm going to be operating in Joburg, I'm going to be operating in Cape Town, or in Durban, or whatever, right? Becomes even more difficult. But for me, with the designers that I have worked with that actually come from the Free State, what I've realized, what's sort of like becomes a challenge when they are out there, is just the lack of information. Do you know what I mean? It's not that there's no talent. It's lack of information, where there's no knowledge of how do I get my brand into a store? And once I've gotten that deal, where do I go to make sure that I'm able to cater to the requirements that are needed within the specific store? So you find somebody like, there's a designer that I was working with, and it was so unfortunate, also from the Free State. It's like, okay, I'm presenting the collection. So it's just sample work, right? Here's a sample. From the sample work, the store is like, great, sure, lovely. We want the store, this brand in our store. And they're like, okay, from the 5 units, maybe 5 design styles, I should call it that, from the 5 design styles that you've made, can we have about 30 units per design? That's a big contract, right? It's a big contract. But then the question is, if you don't have the resources, where is this brand gonna manufacture, let's say 120 items in 1 week, and still make sure the quality is not compromised? So now you lose out on the deal because from the sample to the actual manufacturing, the quality sort of like goes down. Or the other challenge would be because there's no knowledge of where you get your fabrics in bulk. So do you know what they do? They want to go buy fabric where you can get it per meter. Great and well. The disadvantage in that would be, number one, if you buy per meter, the price is higher, unlike when you're buying in bulk, number one. Ne? Secondly, the other risk in that is you think the fabric is available at a certain store, right? And now you came and presented one sample to me that a store approved and said we want 50 units. Fine, you sign, and then you go back to your fabric place and it's finished, sold out. They can give you a similar fabric, maybe different texture, different color, but when you go back to your the people that you've got the contract with, it means they don't want that. So it means you've lost out again. Do you know what I mean? So now I think just like we're not everybody around here, what I've discovered is it's too individualistic. Me, my brand, what I do. Do you understand? And because we're not opening a door of collaboration even amongst ourselves as designers, it means that it makes it, the journey is hard, but now you're making it 20 times harder for yourself because you don't have the right knowledge. And this is where I was trying to get to, is that we don't ask enough questions. And I don't understand why. Like, why aren't you guys asking questions? Because you know what you want to do with your brand. And we must also understand that we should dream beyond just dressing a certain somebody. You know what I mean? I mean, I've dressed like people that are regarded as stars. Candy is one of them, you know, one of the biggest clients. But for me, it must always go beyond just dressing a Bonang Matela, just dressing a Basizana Kumalo, dressing some artists, and you know, outside of those people, we also need our businesses to strive. We also need, even now you'll see with the biggest designers that have dressed the greatest of people in the country and outside of the country, they move from not just doing that, but also just mass production, because that's where the money is. You know, so if anybody in here has a brand and I'm like, okay, Shaka, I like this shirt that you've designed. I need about 100. Can somebody give me like an indication of how that is going to happen? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
If I say I need 100 units of what you are wearing now, and I need it in a week, can you tell me how you're going to do that?
It's too...
Okay.
Good morning, Mama. For you to get those products, I have to have a team that will help me to produce them. And then you have to give me the period of time. If you need them about a week, I need a team to produce those t-shirts for a week. That's how we get the products.
So it comes down to collaboration, which is where I was saying we are so individualistic. And yes, you're creative, but I like your answer, by the way. If you are too individualistic, your growth is slowed down. You know why? Because you want to make the pattern by yourself. And then you want to do the grading by yourself. Grading one pattern from one size to the other. And then on top of that, you must leave the house and go buy the fabric. That's time, that's transportation. And then you still come back. And you know what you're also going to do? You're going to cut yourself again. After cutting, you are still the machinist. You sewing. That is time. So if it would take you, let's say 2 days or 3 days, depending on how fast or slow you are, to make one dress, if you need to make 50 dresses, how long is that going to take you? More than a month. Because in between you must sleep, you must eat, toilet breaks, smoke breaks, anybody smokes. Do you understand? So it's important that we collaborate with people that can do the other work for us. Getting a team that are going to stitch. Maybe you'll do the master pattern and you'll do the first sample and you give them the machine, the fabric and your patterns, and then they just continue with the production. It's quicker. It buys you time as well, because while the team is stitching, you can come and sit here. You know, there's production happening for me right now, but I'm in Velko. Production is happening in Joburg. My work is not being disturbed. You know? And it also opens you up to just being able to get more clients. Because if you are seated and you are stitching the whole day, when are you getting time to be out there and get more clients? When are you knocking into offices and saying, I can make this uniform for you? Because we're busy, you know, you're busy stitching. Yes.
Can I quickly just say something before you? You know, one of the things that we've done beyond Fashion Week in the school, we've opened I think it was just before COVID, a year before COVID, we've opened the Free State, what we call pop-up shop. Ne? And what I've realized is that our designers are not retail ready in the Free State at all, and it's exactly what Refilo has touched on. So if somebody comes in and they want a size, you've exhibited in the store a size 32, but they want a size 38 in that exact design. They could not deliver. There was a lot of problems, you know, up until after COVID, or you know, during the lockdown. I then decided, let's close the shop, because now you have to still pay the rent and all of that, but there's no income. But that has taught me so much that, you know, the designers really need to get, either collaborate with each other, stand, you know, if you are in Kwakwa, stop working on your own, say, guys, let's open like a manufacturing site. There's a lot of space. I mean, there's a lot of factories, whatever. There's assistance from government. SITA is giving out, they're giving out assistance where they will buy you machines, they give you the skills, all of those type of things. But it depends on you to tap into them, get you know, 2 or 3 get together and start the manufacturing site. Start working together, because when you need to deliver on a big order, it's going to be easy. The next step is for you as designers to now talk to Refilo after this and say, can I maybe sign up on your company? You know, how can I don't know how it works, maybe you'll also advise them. Maybe she can assist you to say, when you have now this manufacturing site, you are ready, how can I then get you orders? Looking at your quality, all of those things. There was a designer here yesterday, I'm not sure if he's here. He had a denim, something on, so dope, high quality. And I mean, you could just see this is a guy that's gonna fly. I'm just so sad that he's not here. But you should see his work. Yeah, sorry, you can ask your question.
Good day, everyone. I go by the name of Rebecca Cheney, the founder and director of Post Independent Empire. So my question goes back to the mass production, because my company, I have a brand, Boss Lady brand and Alpha brand. The Alpha brand is for the guys, Boss Lady brand is for the ladies. Then on the other side, I do mass production, because in a way I have to finance and fund the brand, so I need a side hustle. But then the challenge that I've came across as having to establish a strong team, because anyone can just say, hey, yeah, I want to be in your team, bro. You are going there, you are there. But the thing is that from school, you see, you know your classmates. You could say, that one is Asalekisa, that one is doing this and that. Then they want you to hire them or to give them the opportunity of having to work in your brand. But how can you have them in your company where else at school they're slinky? Then number 2 is that how can, like, getting a strong team, where am I going to get it? The collaboration that you're talking about. Someone can just tell me that, now I'm a fashion designer, or you see a perfect garment that they are wearing, and you'll be like, no, I can work with that person. But the moment you have that person in your business, you realize it's a disaster. Because I was experienced that in having like mass production deal from UFS. Then I was like, hey guys, I need a strong team. Someone, they know how to design and everything. But once they were inside, there was so many things going wrong. Keep in mind, once you can flop in pattern,
Yeah, that's one. Maxwell. Yes, thank you. So then we go to vocal types. Vocal types is the soprano, mezzo soprano, alto, bass, baritone, and all that. So I just thought, I always get questions like, how do you increase your vocal capability? You know? Yes, how do you then increase those things? You know? So I wrote more like identify a few things, your comfortable zone and not so comfortable zone. How low can your voice go? How high can your voice go? Then gradually as you do your exercises, your scales, your whatever, then start adding those notes. You get me? Start adding those notes. So exercise that I usually do is do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. So I start from so, fa, mi, re, do. But I use ooh, and I start going to another key. Ooh, another key, until I get to that not so comfortable zone. And then I'm like, okay, this is I struggle here. Ne? And then, okay, so how do I then go to the note? You know? I start again from so, fa, mi, re, do. I do this all the time. I do this every day so that my muscles can then register the note. No man, we can go, and next time, maybe after 3 months, you'll find Sophie in that section, you know? And I do go, which is do, so, mi, do, do, so, mi, do. I do that. These are just examples of exercises that I do to actually get to the note. Let's say I'm on C and I want to get into this or this. You get me? So I'll start doing those until I get to the note. But now what I do is I gradually, so I'll do, right? I can't reach this, but for me to get here, I will start getting here and getting here and getting here. So I'll gradually add notes until I get to my goal, right? Yes. Until I get to my, so those are the exercises that you can do. But if you don't feel like doing that, you can just do your major scale or your minor scale, whatever scale that you want to do to get to that particular note. And then the other question that I always get is how to improve your tone. Right. So my question, then, if I get that question, the first thing I ask, why do you want? Because Baba I'm telling, no, but my singing voice is not nice and all that. But in my mind, I'm like, why Obata voice? Why do you want to sound like something so weird? Most people, they want to sound like something so weird. I love something so weird. But why do you want to sound like him? And Mudimu feel your own tone. You get me? Yeah. Mudimu feel your own tone. So why not improve your own tone? You get me? There was Messi Bongile Kumalo and there will never be another Messi Bongile Kumalo. True. Right? So you start there. So I get to that question, tell me why you want to improve your tone. Then it's like, no, but I want to sound like, I'm like, no, sound like yourself. Let's not sound like another person. we check every finale. So
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Don't you get that question because people wanna like claim, like blame. But ababata bo era body runs and everything but she can't because Obina differently.
Yeah, I get that question also. But now problem yana. If you say to me, how do I then get to do runs like Kimberly?
Oh no.
Kimberly is a pianist too. Let's start by learning the keyboard first, so that we can understand the harmony. You understand? So that you can sing. You understand? So, but there's a way to get there, because Kimberly is singing scales. Kimberly is singing literally scales. Like these scales, the one I am thinking. Where is it?
Awkward one.
Where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. Oh, it's in here. The one I reckon is you have to write these things. A pentatonic scale. Kimberly had a pentatonic scale. So, and for us to actually understand the run and riffs and run, we have to learn the scales. And you can't learn this thing casually and then go it in. You have to do the work. And then someone will ask you, so how does Mobi? I'm like, ask him, you know. But hey, let's go back. So, and then how to improve your tone, your own tone, not exciting, all right? Your own tone. So you play around those vocal registers, take a breathe on your chest, your mix, then to find that balance that you want. This is how I want to sound. You get me? My talking voice and my singing voice, which is one and the same thing. How you share? Yes. Then you play around your vocal range and find okay more kiba husky nyana. Do I like that? Do I want to bring it from my range, from my higher range? Do I want to bring it on my middle, the huskiness? How do I do that? You know, what works for me is that phlegm. What works for me is that phlegm. I leave the others somewhere. I get it. I get when you go CIM, and then it gets another voice. In a little chanya. Because that's me understanding my voice, right? And then make sure that you play with volume to see where do you want placement, right? Placement of your voice and all that, and high resonate your voice, right? And then intonation, accuracy of pitch, okay, right? And then articulation, and then intensity of notes, right? Is it Modimo Haliding, Modimo Haliding. Play around those things. But before you do that, make sure that you do your daily warm-ups, because and then you do this every day. You do this every day. If you're not doing it, get on it. Do it every day. Because when I was short, how so big, you're like, oh, I did that. Because you are practicing every day. Yes. And then ear training. Ear training is very important. Yes, sir.
I have a question. There is this tendency in also being artists there.
Sure.
Say, for instance, the week is about a few hours. So in the morning, a bit of not such hot water as such, a bit of warm water. Does it work that? Clear for somebody?
Oh, yes, very important question. So, let me answer you this way. I drink about 3 liters or 4 liters a day of water. Why am I doing it? To make sure that my body is hydrated, right? So, if my body is hydrated, that means my vocal folds are also hydrated. I steam every day, not every day, but twice a week to make sure that my voice is pashaj. Lanka gula, hore voice haiyo, ichile hakaka, I'm still gonna sing. So another thing, but by wrong, these are bad tendencies. I don't know, maybe uboni tutuzile makoba anwameza chisa, and maybe that works for her. Maybe she was just drinking it to lose weight, and then you started drinking hot water. But when you get into a shower, a hot shower, what happens to your skin? Just let it dry. What happens to your skin? And you got to showering, hot shower, and then we had when I go dry fella and then sit. Sky pum. When I go dry, that's exactly what happens to your vocal folds. But humidifier, steaming helps your voice. And water, not boiling water, not hot water. Yes, we drink body ginger, it's good for our immune system and stuff, which is good, but it has nothing to do with your voice. Water and sleeping. Sleep is good for your voice. If your voice is not okay, sleep. If you feel like I can't, sleep, rest. And by resting, I can't be on your phone. Sleep. By resting, I can't sleep. Rest your voice. Rest. And drink water. And thank me later. Okay? And another question, maybe, before we pass? No? Ear training. So, ear training, hearing key, and bend is a magai. Bend is a magai, hands are jala, haula shehi, you know? So you, yes, haula shehi, and luena utoya bubodi, sascot, habata saslina, luena kenyan, your thing, your Mixolydian scale. Because you know better. Because you know better, right? So your ear training, it'll go the scales, which are these ones. Scales and modes. And modes. The mode happy modes. So yeah. Modes, and then arpeggios, then you go train yourself for time signature, hold it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1, 2, 3, right? 4/4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. 6/8 is? Yes, please. 6/8. Yes, you're right. Thank you. And there's 5/4. There's a lot, right? But it's a few. And then you get into your patterns, your daily patterns. I wrote them. Well, I didn't write them. I took them somewhere. You get your patterns, and it's important as a vocalist to get a vocal trainer. I know, a vocal trainer. If you don't have a vocal coach, you still have your YouTube. You still have, YouTube. You still have people like us to call. Say, how do I get this? How do I get this? Linda, I still consult. I still call my lecturer, like, Linda, today, I had to call one of my people, my mentors. What should I talk about? Things like that. So you need, you get into your patterns, you get into your time signature, intervals, arpeggios, yes, that. Now, vocal improvisation, which is the good stuff. That's your riffs and runs, and that. Riffs and runs and all that. So, firstly, we check the music style. I get this question a lot. But when you are teaching us, you are in a jazzy way because but singing is singing. There is no, if you are a vocalist, you can't be a vocal piano fan. You can't be, you need to round up. True. When you are a vocalist, you are a vocalist. Amen. When you are a pianist, you are a pianist. How is it gospel pianist? When you are a bass player, you are a bass player. Yes. When you are a drummer, you are a drummer. You are not a gospel drummer. So you need to know all of these styles. So you identify your style that you want to sing.